How do you know how much a job is going to pay if they haven't given you an offer yet? Well, my friend has this exact problem. She emailed me this morning and she doesn't want to go through the interview process if they're not going to pay her enough. So let's dig into this and figure out how to get that number out of them and at the same time not give away too much information about your current position. My friend Kristen is vacationing in Spain after leaving her job, and she heard about this job from the hiring manager herself. The hiring manager called her and was like, hey, I'd love for you to interview for this job. And she's saying, wow, like this is exactly the type of job that I want, but I have a feeling it's not gonna pay me as much money as my last job, which really wouldn't be interesting to me. So I don't wanna fly all the way back and cut my vacation short if I know that it's not gonna pay me enough. Let's look at what she says. I'm definitely interested in the job, but I'm also worried it won't pay much. Do you have any advice on how to bring that up at such an early stage? Do you think it's too direct to say something like, I'm really excited about the role and I'm ready to book my ticket back to meet with the team. I do want to confirm that the salary is in the same ballpark as my previous role before finalizing my plans. Can you let me know if it's in that neighborhood? Now, as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh my God, for God's sakes, don't say that. Don't worry, I'm gonna help you out. And the reason is, this is the exact time where people sometimes mess up on a salary negotiation because they're not negotiating yet, but they're giving off information that is gonna worsen their position. You don't wanna say, hey, here's my previous salary, can you get to it? Because she wants to earn more than she earned at her last job, not less. The right thing to do here is to ask directly and then anchor a high salary expectation. Giving your expectation, not your previous salary. Now, a lot of people will tell you, you should wait, let them give you the first number, don't give the first number. That's true in a situation where you don't know anything about what they might offer, because then you might want to wait and see if they offer you something more than what you were expecting. In this case, she does seem to know something about the job and she has a strong hunch that they're not going to pay her enough. So instead of waiting, it's better to actually be the first person to say the number and set a high number. It's called anchoring, and it basically sets expectation and then lets them meet you there as opposed to the other way around. Let's make up some numbers so we have something specific to talk about. Let's say that Kristen, in her last job, she was making $85K and she was managing, let's say, 2 people on her team. We're gonna wanna talk about compensation and responsibility. And I'll go deeper into this, but the reason we wanna talk about these two is because largely at a company, when you have increased responsibility, you'll have increased compensation. So we don't wanna just talk about money, we wanna talk about them both simultaneously. This is a script that I gave her to use as a template to send to that hiring manager. I'm super excited at the chance to interview for the position, and I'd like to make sure we're on the same page as far as responsibility and compensation go before I make the trip home. In my last position, I had 2 direct reports on my team and I managed all of our supply chain vendors. I'd expect my base salary to be in the range of $100K. Does that seem in line with your expectations? Of course, compensation isn't the only factor, but I wanted to check in and see what your expectations were, and if we're far off, we can talk about it. Thanks for reaching out. I was really excited to learn more about the position. Let's break this down and we can figure out what each element does and the effect in this email. I started with excitement and gratitude, and I ended the email with excitement and gratitude, and those are really important. You want to start with good feelings and end with good feelings. These are what I call caretaking statements, and I'm going to link to a video that is all about caretaking statements, and you can figure out what makes it most effective. I would want Kristen to take these generic ones and actually make them specific and personal to her. You might have noticed that I use the phrase, I want to make sure we're on the same page, because it's a nice, easy, and friendly way of saying, hey, are we in agreement here? I also talk about responsibility and compensation. I didn't just go straight towards compensation, because in most companies, as you increase in responsibility, then you can ask for more compensation. Sometimes you come up across a company and they'll say, hey, the ceiling for a program manager position is $80,000. We just can't offer you $100,000. And so what happens is they get stuck in like a box where they're saying, oh, you don't fit our model of what a program manager is. But if you talk about the responsibility that you want to take on, which is usually quite welcome, that you're saying, hey, I want to do all these great things. I really want to tackle big projects. And as you increase their view of the responsibility that you have, sometimes they'll reclassify you and say, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe this sounds more like a senior program manager, and now we can offer you a higher compensation range, and it still fits our model of compensation, and you kind of fit into our eyes of what we think an employee should earn. After I talked about something impressive at my previous job in terms of responsibility, and I gave my compensation expectations, I asked a simple question: is this in line with your expectations? And you'll notice that right after that, I gave myself an out. And that means I gave myself some wiggle room. And the reason and the way I did this is saying, look, compensation is not the only factor I'm considering, and if we're really far apart, let's have a discussion about this. The reason I did that is because if I am really far apart, I don't want to close down the discussion right there. I want to actually set ourselves up to have another discussion, and then I can possibly backtrack if I want to. It gives me the ability to ask for something pretty aggressive, but not feel like I'm, my way or the highway. A really important overarching point about this salary negotiation, and most negotiations in general, is that it's not about the number. A good negotiation isn't about you getting to a specific number that you want. It's about seeing the game board, seeing what is the range of possibilities that the other side can offer you, and then choosing where do you want to sit. Do they have anything that you actually want? So you actually want to hit a boundary. You want them to say no to you, and so you can say, oh, okay, I hit a boundary. Now I know where the edges are. Do they have something to offer me that I want to accept or not? So that's one way to ask for compensation information before you even go through the job interview process, negotiation process, and it's a great thing to do because one, you're kind of sending this signal, it's a subtext of like, hey, I just want to make sure this is at my level because I have lots of job opportunities and I don't need to kind of go down and act desperate for this job if it's not going to be at the level that I'm expecting. All right, let me get it. One more try. Is to remember that I hope you'll enjoy this video about a real life situation. I love making videos about specific situations that people have. And if you did like it, hit the like button. Hit me up in the comment section if you have any other questions or situations that you want me to address. And of course, subscribe to my channel. I'm coming at you each and every week with a new video. I'll see you next time.